If you have long felt that your time here is simply a passage, if you have looked upon those you call family and recognized a profound separateness, as if you are a quiet guest in a story that is not your own, if you have been labeled as distant, too intense, or hard to understand by people who never saw the weight you carried within, if you have felt a quiet ache for a home you cannot name, and walked through your days observing a world you could not fully embrace, this is not a sign that you are flawed. It is a sign that you remember a deeper form of belonging. You remember a stillness this world cannot offer. You remember that your purpose here is not to start a new journey, but to walk the final steps of a very old one. You are the traveler who no longer needs to strive, to gain, to win, not even to fit in, but to offer a quiet blessing to this world before your departure. So, if this earthly existence has always felt like the closing passage of a beautiful, long story, you are nearing its completion, and soon you will journey back to where the noise fades, where true connection is never lost, and where your true spiritual family has been waiting to welcome you with peace. My journey is one of completion. Type this in the comments below to affirm your path. There is a point in the great journey of awareness when this world, in all its vividness and motion, no longer commands your full attention. This is not a sudden shift, nor a choice made by the thinking mind. It is a gentle arrival, the culmination of countless cycles of experience, lifetimes spent exploring sorrow and joy, stillness and turmoil, separation and union. When a being reaches this state of profound fullness, it is not weary in the way the body grows tired. It is whole. It has absorbed the entire spectrum of lessons this earthly classroom can provide. It no longer needs loud contrast to understand itself. This state is often mistaken for detachment, but it is in fact a deep form of presence. This idea of a cycle's completion is a quiet truth woven through many ancient traditions. Certain wisdom paths speak of it as having tasted every drop from the cup of life. Other philosophies describe it as the river finally reaching the vast, open ocean, its journey of twists and turns now over. These perspectives all point to a state of inner freedom, not a freedom from living, but from the restless need to continually seek and become. From the viewpoint of inner growth, the markers of this completion can manifest as a deep, unshakable calm, not indifference but clarity. You may experience a powerful, yet subtle understanding that you are merely a traveler passing through this realm. You do not chase influence, status, or even material ease. Instead, you are moved by a simple, heartfelt compassion and a quiet sense of purpose that needs no external validation. This could be seen as the final stage of true self-integration, where all the scattered parts of you, the light and the shadow, have been embraced and unified. When you no longer fight with yourself, there is nothing left to achieve. There is only a state of being. You may not feel spiritual in the ways the world defines it. You may not use special words, follow specific rites, or wear certain attire, but you move through life with a stillness that is not just a part of your personality. It is your very essence. Forgiveness becomes natural for you, not because you approve of harm, but because the energy required to hold a grudge feels utterly foreign. You embody what the ancient masters called equanimity, radiating the peace of someone who is no longer playing a game, but simply observing the flow of life itself. You have not stopped living. You have stopped resisting it. The spirit that is completing its final turn in the great cycle often feels a unique kind of solitude. This is not the loneliness of being unwanted, but the homesickness of the soul. This world, with its noise and ambitions, ceases to feel like your true origin. You remember, in a place deeper than thought, that you have come from a place of immense silence. You may not recall the details, but you recognize this world is a beautiful stop along the way, not the destination itself. This longing is not sad. It is the pull toward rejoining the greater current of consciousness from which you came. At this stage, the strong push and pull of past actions begins to soften. You no longer find yourself in intensely dramatic situations, not because you have become untouchable, but because your inner state no longer radiates the turbulence that attracts such storms. You have learned what this world can teach, the nature of lack and abundance, of sickness and vitality, of betrayal and deep loyalty, of conflict and of harmony. When your being has fully integrated these opposites, it stops creating new waves. Your life may appear quieter to others, not because it is empty, but because it is in balance. You may find that you had little desire to speak about your inner state. You have no interest in titles, hierarchies, or appearing enlightened. The performance of spirituality becomes tiring. You are simply you, in the most authentic way possible. If you guide others, you do it through your gentle presence. If you serve, you do it without announcement. If you lead, it is purely by your own steady example. You might still encounter challenges, but they no longer shatter you. They make you more humble. Hardship is no longer a personal attack. It is simply part of a sacred rhythm you no longer fight. You no longer ask, "Why did this happen to me?" Instead, you might gently wonder, what part of me is this revealing that needs more love? What separates a spirit nearing its journey's end from one still deeply engaged in the earthly cycle is not their knowledge, their success, or their moral purity. It is the absence of inner struggle. The need to fix yourself or control the world dissolves. All that remains is a quiet participation, like a guest at a grand feast who has enjoyed every course and now sits with a full heart, grateful and ready to thank the host and depart in peace. But what becomes of the journeyer when there are no more inner battles to wage? When no more echoes from the past call for a return? This is the moment the soul's agreement with this plane of existence finds its peaceful conclusion. Not through failure, but through fulfillment. Like a student who lays down their pen after the final question is answered, you are free to leave the classroom. This is not a turning away from the world, but a graduation into a vaster reality. As a philosophy, this truth can feel unsettling to systems built on endless cycles. Some traditions use the idea of mandatory return as a tool for control, but true spiritual growth reveals that your awareness is not chained to any wheel forever. That cycle is moved by the momentum of unfinished business, by our attachments, our resentments, our unlearned lessons. When you clear these energies from within yourself, the wheel loses its power. When nothing holds you here energetically, it simply stops turning, and in its place, there is only stillness, freedom, and pure presence. If this sense of quiet completion resonates with you, it's because a part of you already understands this journey. It's not about seeking validation from the outside, but about recognizing the reflections of your own inner truth. Ancient wisdom traditions have observed certain patterns or signals that appear in those who are in this final, beautiful chapter. Let's explore 12 of these signals. They are not a checklist, but a mirror. If what you see feels familiar, it is a gentle confirmation of a path you are already walking. If you have found a quiet sense of clarity in this exploration, I invite you to join our community of fellow travelers. Subscribing to this channel is a way of saying yes to your own journey and connecting with others who are also walking this path of conscious completion. Simply click the subscribe button and you become part of this stream of awareness. 1. A profound disinterest. You might feel a deep lack of interest in the very things that capture the world's attention: conflict, drama, competition, even complex spiritual pursuits. This is not apathy. It is the quiet wisdom of someone who has already run many races and no longer needs to prove anything. 2. Time feels fluid. You may notice that your perception of time is changing. The past, present, and future feel interconnected. You might understand the situation's outcome long before it unfolds, sensing the river's entire course, not just the bend in front of you. 3. A detached compassion. Your love for others becomes vast and unconditional. You can hold space for someone's pain without getting lost in it. You see their journey from a higher perspective, honoring their path without the need to interfere. 4. Effortless forgiveness. You find it easy to release grievances. The act of holding on to resentment feels like carrying a heavy stone for no reason. You understand that blame only perpetuates a cycle of pain, and you choose to be free. 5. The release of identity. The stories you once told about yourself, your career, your past, your roles, begin to feel thin and transparent. You are no longer defined by what you have done or what you have been called. You simply exist as presence. 6. A need for stillness. Large crowds and constant noise can feel disruptive to your inner state. You find your greatest strength and clarity in quiet moments, in nature, in the sacred space of your own solitude. Silence is not empty for you, it is full. 7. A sense of a distant home. There may be a quiet, persistent feeling of homesickness for a place you have never physically been to. Your dreams might be filled with a sense of light, of peace, of a realm beyond form. It feels more like a memory than an invention. 8. Accelerated synchronicity. Life seems to arrange itself around you with greater meaning. You think of someone, and they call. A question arises in your mind, and the answer appears in a book you happen to open. The universe speaks to you in a quiet language of signs, guiding your final steps. 9. Emotional simplicity. You no longer ride the waves of intense emotional highs and lows. You do not chase moments of ecstasy or run from feelings of sorrow. You seek authenticity, quiet connection, and the gentle balance of a centered heart. 10. Piercing clarity. You can perceive the underlying truth of situations almost instantly. You are no longer swayed by charismatic leaders or complex systems of belief. Your own inner wisdom has become your ultimate guide, and you honor that same authority within others. 11. A sacred solitude. You may feel a sense of separateness, but it is not painful. It is the peaceful solitude of the mountain peak, which sees the whole landscape from a distance. You can connect with others from a place of love, yet you know you are just a visitor here. 12. Peace with transition. The idea of death no longer holds fear for you. You perceive it not as an end, but as a natural transition, a return journey. This doesn't make you careless with life. It makes you deeply appreciative, present, and free. It is a beautiful truth that some beings, having reached this inner state of wholeness, choose to return one last time, not to learn more lessons for themselves, but purely to be a source of quiet light for others. Their presence is rarely loud. You will not always find them on grand stages or in temples. You might find them as a caregiver in a quiet room, a musician sharing a simple melody on a street corner, or the stranger who offers you a kind word at the exact moment you need it. These beings have nothing left to gain. They are not trying to gather followers or build legacies. Their final contribution is made from the shadows, where the light is most needed and most true. They do not demonstrate their spirituality. They are simply present, grounded, and radiate a kindness that asks for nothing in return. These travelers in their final season are often drawn to a life of simplicity. They move away from complexity and conflict, not because they are afraid, but because their entire being now vibrates at the frequency of peace. Their service may not be seen by many, but its gentle ripples change the world. There is a very unique kind of loneliness that comes with this final chapter. It arises not from a lack of love, but from a fading memory, a kind of spiritual forgetting that is just beginning to clear. These travelers remember flashes of other times, other ways of being, other realities. This is why they often feel a natural pull toward timeless wisdom, ancient symbols, or languages that feel strangely familiar. This solitude is sacred. It is the soul's final conversation with itself, whispering, "You are almost home." But sharing this profound inner knowledge is difficult, as it is easily misunderstood. So they often walk with it alone, like a quiet, hidden warmth, to understand in your very bones that this is your last walk on this earth changes everything. Every interaction becomes more precious. Every sunrise feels like a final gift. A deep appreciation arises alongside a calm neutrality. You no longer fight when life takes an unexpected turn or when people walk away. You cease to argue with the flow of the river. This knowing can also bring a gentle sadness. There is a deep beauty in this world that will be missed. The colors, the seasons, the feeling of sunlight on skin. Yet beneath this feeling lies an unshakable peace, a quiet acceptance that the circle is now complete. You came, you lived, you learned, and now your spirit is free. In this concluding phase, the separation between the inner world and the outer world becomes more transparent. Meaningful coincidences, those moments where an outer event perfectly mirrors an inner state, happen more and more often. It is as if life itself is confirming what your soul already knows. You are nearing the gate of your return. The right people appear at the right moment. The very answers you seek arrive unexpectedly. These are not random occurrences. They are markers on your path, gentle reminders that you are being guided on this final journey home. These synchronicities also increase because your own energy field has become calm and coherent. When there is no inner resistance, when the mind is no longer restlessly seeking, life responds to your very presence. Time itself seems to bend, and your path becomes less about effort and more about flow. What happens after? After leaving this physical plane, the spirit enters a state of profound clarity. This is sometimes called a life review, but it is not a judgment. It is a moment of total understanding, of seeing how every choice rippled outward and of integrating all of one's experiences into a unified whole. Once this is done, the spirit moves onward, not across space, but in resonance. It is drawn to a state of being that perfectly matches its own. You go where you are, not where you are sent. Imagine realms of pure insight, where learning and communication happen through a direct knowing from spirit to spirit. Here, earthly relationships are seen in a new light. The roles we played, parent, child, friend, foe, dissolve. All that is left is recognition, understanding, and love. Some spirits may choose to become guides, offering quiet encouragement to those still on their earthly path. Others may merge into even deeper states of oneness, returning to the vast, silent ocean of consciousness from which all life emerges. This is not an ending, but a homecoming to a state where uniqueness is celebrated within the context of absolute unity. Earthly lives are seen as treasured chapters in a grander story, remembered with fondness, but no longer defining who you are. You are not your story. You are the stillness that remains when the story is over. So where does the spirit go after its final journey on earth? It goes home, not to a place, but to a state of pure being. There is no more striving, no more suffering, only truth and peace. Once there, you do not ask what comes next. You simply are, and that is enough. If this message of completion and return resonates with you, I invite you to make a commitment to your own path of peace. By subscribing to this channel and sharing this video with someone it may help, you are not just watching a video. You are anchoring this intention in your life and helping to create a space of quiet wisdom for others on their journey home.